Okay, we're going to get started. Um, Welcome, everyone. Um, I'm Steve Glenn. I'm the founder and CEO of Plant Prefab. I've got a few colleagues here. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Kim, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Kim Arciniega. I'm a project designer and project manager here at Plant.
Matt
Matt Langton, head of project management. Been here for quite a while, and I've met a number of you already.
and Seth.
Seth Whitlock, Business Development Manager. Nice to see you
Awesome.
all.
Awesome. So first, I know that at least a few of you lost your homes, and I just want to extend our condolences about that. Many of my friends lost their homes. My mom grew up in the Palisades. It was just visiting. We went out to where she grew up. That home is gone. We've worked with many homeowners over the years who lost their homes. Kim, as you'll heard, actually has worked on many rebuild projects, and so we have some sense of the stress and the pain and the challenge, and just want to acknowledge that. And if we can be helpful in your desire to get back to your homes and communities as quickly and as painlessly as possible, we'd be honored. Um, so what we're going to do tonight, this afternoon, I'll quickly talk a little bit about Plant, the company, what we do, more specifically focus on our design studio. Kim's going to take you through some work that she's personally managed, and mostly we're going to leave time for questions and answers. So we'll try to anticipate a few, but love this to be a discussion. And before we get started, um, Matt and Stacy, if you don't mind, if you just, I know at least a few folks here have met you, but just tell us a little bit about, if you're willing to share, totally fine. If not, what brings you here tonight?
Thank you. It's great to see and meet all you. We are in Altadena. We are in the process of taking plans that we've had developed and deciding how we're going to proceed, and are interested in learning about uh, the manufactured housing industry and what Plant has to offer. So we're glad to be here.
Awesome. Mike, if you're open to sharing, love to hear what brings you here.
Hey everyone, my family lost their home in the Palisades and just kind of doing some due diligence and looking at some ideas and options for them. And Steve, I've known of your work for quite some time and interested to learn more.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, sorry for your family's loss, and thank you for joining us tonight. And I hope we can answer any of your questions. And I should mention, we do weekly tours. You all are absolutely welcome to come out and see what we do. So let me start by giving you a quick little background on how we got here, and then you'll better understand Plant. So almost 20 years ago, I started a company called Living Homes, design and development firm. I wanted to be an architect growing up. I kind of did a design program in college and realized I'd be a bad architect, but resolved to someday hopefully help great architects do great work more efficiently. So after a career in tech and some nonprofit work, um, uh, my thesis for business in real estate came very quickly, which is concluded there was a large and growing demand for people like me who really care about design, health, and sustainability and the products they buy, but the major production home builders weren't building homes for us. So started a company called Living Homes with a very simple premise. We partner with great world-class architects, people like Ray Cappy and Kieran Timberlake and others, and develop some standardized homes, integrate a LEED platinum level environmental program. LEED is the world's largest green building certification program. Platinum is their highest level of certification, and then use outsourced factory production to more efficiently build what we build. And I say outsourced. My first career was in tech. My first job was at Apple. You know, Apple doesn't make any of your iPhones if you use iPhone. It's all outsourced because it's a different business. We started in 2006. We ultimately worked with 10 different companies. It was very difficult working with them because, in fairness, they were set up to do, well, in many cases, mobile homes or schools. By the way, Matt joined us over a decade ago as an intern. So when Matt mentioned he's been with us a long time, he meant it. Finally, kind of again, a decade later, we're like, we need a better solution. And we still didn't feel like it made sense for us to have our own factories, different business. So we spun out plant prefab. And the opportunity we saw was to create a new company that was focused not on lower quality, non-sustainable homes. That's sort of the existing companies with whom we were working, but rather high quality architectural, really sustainable, really climate resilient homes. We felt that this company would not only solve our needs, but frankly, we could solve the needs of hundreds of thousands of individuals and developers and nonprofits who want a better way to do their architectural projects. And so we spun out plant. We opened with a facility in Rialto, small one. It got full. We opened a second one in Ontario. It got full, and we made plans for our first ground up kind of mega factory, which we built in Arvin, California, which is about an hour north of Los Angeles, 20 miles south of Bakersfield. And we're unique in a few respects. First, we focus on, as I said, custom architecture. We work with any architect. We have the only facility in the US purpose-built to do both panels and modules. Those are the two major building systems in prefab, and kind of any other prefab company you've heard of does one or the other. I'll talk about the differences when I take you on a quick tour of the factory. So we are able to look at projects, and based on the design and the transport and installation logistics and the budget and schedule, we can sort of figure out what's the best way to do it. Sometimes it's all panels. Frankly, sometimes that's the only way we can do it based on the site and its access for big trucks, big cranes. Sometimes it's all modules, and oftentimes for single family, it's a hybrid approach with both. And we have the only facility that can do that. Oh, by the way, it's the only high volume automated facility on the West Coast that does single family homes. It's a pretty incredible facility. So the other thing that's kind of unique about us is our focus on sustainability. So that really impacts how we build and the materials we use. And we'll talk about that a little bit when I show you I'll take you on a quick tour of our facility, which I am going to do right now. So can you see my screen? It's not showing.
Yeah, we see your screen.
Okay, good. It's weird. I'm not getting the usual Zoom. As I mentioned, it's a 270,000 square foot facility. And you've seen the video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go through this generally how projects do, but before we do, we're going to start with what we do for every project. And this is very unique. We create, it's called a manufacturing model for our projects. And so we're taking the architecturals, the plans, and we're fully coordinating the structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, even the sprinklers to create this digital model. And with it, we clarify any constructability issues before we even start work on site. So we clarify what are called RFIs, requests for information. These are often the source of change orders. We can talk about that later. It's an advantage, major advantage of our process. But we also get the machine code that tells our equipment what to do. And at each one of our stations, you'll see this monitor that it's going to show you a component from that model, and it's telling the automated equipment what to do with that model. So this is how all projects start here. Every piece of wood we cut, every stud joist, rim joist, is cut here. And not only is it cut, it does complex kinds of cuts that we need, dottos. It routes, so puts holes for every for plumbing and electrical. No electrician or plumber is measuring anything in the factory. It's all done there, and then it's labeled. We know what part of the project, we know what project and what part of the project. We have three automated panel lines. This is the one for our walls. And you saw a piece of equipment that nails every stud and joist. This piece of equipment nails the OSB, the weather wrap. It cuts openings for windows and doors. It trims excess wood. And with this process, not only is it much faster and more efficient, but every panel is absolutely level, straight, square, flush with 1/32 tolerances. That's like aerospace level. This piece of equipment blows in insulation. So we have these panel lines for walls, for floors, for ceilings. You went along the wall line. You're now going to see how we finish off an exterior panel. So we're putting in windows. We can put in cladding if that's part of the project, even drywall if it's a closed panel. We have three module lines. So that's where we put in the drywall, paint, millwork, tiles, appliances. Everything's inspected at the factory, by the way, by the state. Can talk about the inspection process. It's more efficient this way. We literally deliver certificates. No local inspector can inspect any of the work we do. It's done by the state. We then prepare the panels or the modules. Here you see panels being wrapped for pickup by your general contractor. We're generally selling our components to your GC. So you have one group responsible for your entire construction project. And they're then responsible for the installation. So this is a project we worked on, designed by Loha, a great firm in West Hollywood. First floor was panels, and the second and third floor modules. Actually, we just last week published finished photos of that a couple of weeks ago, so you can see that on our site. So that's a quick overview of plant, and I want to speak for a second specifically about our design studio. So we mostly work for most of the work we do is designed by third-party architects. However, we do have a in-house group headed by Matt. Kim is our designer. And we've done a number of projects. So again, we were the design team. We got the permits. We bid it out to general contractors. We did construction administration, kind of all the things that an architect does. So I'm going to point out some of the projects for whom we were the designer in the single family side. Let's see, this one, Living Home 4. This is in Silver Lake. This project in Hollywood we did, and this is all under portfolio. You can kind of spend time going through. Kim's going to show you some more work. this project in Agora Hills. Actually, that was a fire rebuild. This project in Napa, this project in Van Nuys, this project in Brentwood. Actually, I think technically, yeah, that is Brentwood. So usually when we are the design team, we are working with some of the standards that we designed here. So I went from portfolio to living homes. These are standard homes that we designed. You can see different types here, different floor plans, different sizes. Some were designed by other folks like Ray Cappy, and architects like RPA, but you'll see a number were designed by us. So generally where we're the designer, we're starting with one of these and then customizing. Although we have done fully custom projects where we're not starting from any of these standards. So with that, let me turn this over to Kim, and she's going to take you through some recent projects that she's worked on personally. Kim, you should be able.
Yeah, sorry, can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, I just, firstly want to echo Steve's remarks regarding, the grief of what the fire has brought to you and your communities, and my condolences. And then to further expand on my introduction, so I've actually been in prefab design for nearly 9 years, both on design and some project management through fabrication. And I also want to highlight that I've worked on some fire rebuilds previously in Sonoma, Napa, Santa Rosa, and Malibu. And always want to do my best to ease this process for you, which I know. I've worked with previous clients who've been in similar situations, and I just like feel for you guys. And I've also had experience working with City of LA County, and been familiarizing myself with all the new ordinances regarding the January fires. So that's sort of like intro of me and some of my work. But I also want to show you guys some of our some recent work that we've done here at the Plant Design Studio. Yeah. Yeah, so this particular home is a single family home in the Bay Area. This was actually fully panelized due to the location. It was located in a very narrow street, which would have made it really difficult to be able to set modules. But we essentially we did the design, and then we also fabricated the panels. And here I'll show you some photos as well of this project that we set. I think now it's been a year since we've set it. And because it's panelized, it's this particular one did not come with any doors and windows, but we worked with the client on the design, and we actually even fabricated some of the steel. Like they wanted a steel staircase with a sort of like steel walkway, and actually this particular thing was actually done in our factory and set on site. And here's just a couple photos of their interiors that they've been working on, which we also helped design. And then this other project started. It's two residences. This is what would be like a hybrid model. I particularly like showing this project because I think it sort of shows where the modular and prefabrication can go, and it's not just the sort of boxy thing that comes to mind when you think of a module. And actually here I can sort of demystify two. These were the 6 modules that were set, and these in blue are actually some of the panels that we also used. And then actually also have some photos of this project at our factory. Sorry, this is actually a set of the panels that we also sent along with the modules. Here's more the steel work that we did in-house. kitchen with appliances, flooring, all that came with this project because this was a fully modular, bathrooms. And here's some photos of the set day. And here's this is once it's set, so you can see the same sort of photo, but now it's in its location. And this project is slated to be completed by next month. So we said it earlier this year, and then about to be completed. The 2 units are also about 1,000 square feet each. And yeah, this was a full plant design and then full plant fabrication. And then the site contractor then, as you see, was the one who then installed some of the patching between the modules and things like the siding. And then this last one I wanted to show is another current one that is it's in the design phase. It's actually based on one of those standard homes that Steve was sort of showing on the website. And essentially, we're essentially keeping the full standard design except for some, minor modifications that we're doing just based on the site, like certain windows and doors that we're moving around because of where you want light, where access, and then we're also adding, for example, like a fireplace, and we'll also be dealing with some requirements that the roof will need because it's in basically snow country. Yeah, and that's just a quick little overview of some of the projects we've done and what we're working on, and just to kind of give you a little some of the gamut that we sort of like to work on, and really also I think we like to work with the clients and sort of what they're sort of looking for. As you see, all these have a little bit of a different style, and we're happy to do so too.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. So to be clear, again, our interest, like we want whatever is in our client's best interest for a design perspective. Most of what we're doing, as I said earlier, the work we're building are we're designed by third-party architects, not us. But for people who want to work with us directly, we are absolutely happy to do that. We know how to work with prefab. Kim's at the factory pretty often, working with the production team, working with the guys on the floor. So it makes for a pretty seamless, integrated experience. So there are probably some advantages with that, but whatever works best for you. So let me answer a few questions. We tend to get a lot, and then totally open it up for you. In terms of pricing, we do custom work, so we price per design and specification. The single family homes that we have bid or built in the last year have ranged from $225 a square foot to $500. By the way, you saw the 500. That duplex in Venice was about 500 a square foot. To understand what the all-in costs are, meaning your total hard costs, so not including what are called soft costs, your design fees and your permit fees, your rebuild, thankfully, you guys won't have permit fees, but the hard costs, construction, that's, by the way, that's the majority of what you'll spend to build a home. Double our costs, good rule of thumb. I'll tell you actually that Venice project that was not 1,000. It was more in the mid 800s. So the doubling didn't quite work for that, but in general, double our costs. In terms of time frame, takes us generally about a month to order your material. So we got the contract, a month to get the material in, and we have to get it all in. And then on average about 3 months. If it's a modular project or it has a lot of modules, if it's an all panel project, it can be weeks. With that, let me ask for any questions, and we are eager to answer them.
I'll jump in. This is Matt. Thanks to both of you for that. That was very impressive. Um, so in terms of quality control, I envision old school construction where somebody looks at a piece of lumber and it doesn't look right, so that they scrap it. Where in your process do you apply any kind of quality control to make sure that the finished product doesn't have any glitches?
Yeah, well,
Well, the receiving team starts by culling through things like framing to make sure that it is at our expectations of straightness. And we have high expectations of straightness because the machines that we use require straight lumber. We have plenty of stopping points during the production phase to make sure, and this is part of our QA/QC process, making sure that the production leads and our head of production and also the project management team are also aligned with the quality expectations that we expect. And then there's also a third point, which is RADCO, our inspection agency, which also does their own inspections, right? That's the third-party approval process that we have to go through for fabrication.
Thank you.
Yeah, but just to, again, so the biggest problem you can have in terms of just warranty or frankly cost for a home once you're built is your structure. If you have problems there, all sorts of stuff can result from weatherproofing to having to do some major work to shore up that structure. Our structural elements are built by machines, and as I said, because of that, our panels are absolutely level, straight, square, flush, with a level of tolerance that you get in the aerospace industry. I mentioned it right, 1/32. In construction, the best GCs will talk about an eighth of an inch tolerance, and many don't hit that. So you get a very high quality product from us that's just integral in the way we build.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, hey Steve. So thank you guys so much for the presentation. Really informative. Questions on a few different levels because I'm coming at it from really just a different perspective here. The overall cost, you said somewhere 220 to 500 square foot, right? I guess I'm looking at a few different things. What are the next steps? What are process? You talked about, I saw the different kind of variations in custom builds you have. I guess what I need to understand for myself is basic cost of even our to fixing up our land, because that's going to be a whole nother thing to then involve from there. And then design, like what are next steps to then be able to present this to our family?
Yeah. Well, first of all,
I know there was a lot there, so thank you. I know there was a lot of it.
Yeah, no problem. But I realize I should have added one higher level of detail about the cost. The budgets that we're working with a number of architects on rebuild projects, and the range of the all-in budgets that we so far are seeing for the projects we're doing, and this is involved with many, both in Palisades and Altadena. I think the cost range is 600 to 800 all in, so that's including soft costs and hard costs. Could it be more? Of course. Could it be less? We have an Altadena project theoretically that will be less. So let's see. It's still kind of early days, and frankly, it's early days for most of these projects. Although several are moving to production for us, so those budgets are becoming hard. And as you may know, Mike, the challenge with this process is you don't know the pricing until the design is done and your spec is defined. These are the appliances you want, the windows, the millwork, the tiles, all of those elements have cost implications. Your design has cost implications. Number of windows have cost implications. And once that's done, oh, and by the way, you've got to get your soils test. And then a structural engineer has to say, based on that soils test and the seismic zone you're in, this is the foundation that's required. So once all that information is done, and unfortunately, you have to spend time and money to get there. Then someone like us on the prefabrication side and a site GC can give you real bids because they're going from plans that have the major questions about the major items that impact costs clarified, right? So early in the project, you don't have that. So luckily, though, when you're working with someone like us, we've been around 9 years, we've built a lot of stuff, so we can give ranges that we've seen, and we can look at designs and understand, have some sense of what we think the likely cost might be. So anyway, general remarks I wanted to make with respect to your specific question. The most we can say without a design are just, here's ranges for projects we're doing. If you were to say, hey, I like the Living Home 5.1, I'm going to want to customize that. That 5.1, it's 1,600 square feet. We're going to want 2,000 square feet, but I like the look and feel, something that roughly mimics some of the floor plan elements there. Then we consider that a semi-custom version of that. It's a lower design fee. And our design fees, like most architects, are based on a percentage. They range from, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, 7% to about 11 or 12%. So 11 or 12%, it's fully custom. We are starting clean sheet. You're talking to us, probably sharing a bunch of images of things you like, and we're spending a lot of time with you to flush out what is your what are the things that inspire you, and ultimately iterating through different design approaches to find that custom design. At the other end, we're taking one of our standards and we're building that or customizing it. So that design fees range on that, but vary based on that. But if you look at one of our designs and say, I want a customized version of that, then we can start to give you some estimates. Or if you work with an architect, you've got a schematic, send it to us, and we can give you some estimates based on that. So that answers, I think, about your question on estimates. And then the design process, we follow the same design process any architects that follows. The major phases are schematic design, design development, permitting, construction documents, construction administration. So actually, Kim, why don't you share quickly what those stages are, what you're doing during each?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, schematic design, basically like early concepts, but we really try to sort of nail down footprint and major items. As we get into design development, that's when we start to incorporate other consultants as well, mechanical, electrical, fire sprinklers. And so the design gets a lot more refined. And typically that phase actually kind of feeds into our state submittals and starts to feed into the local. A local submittal typically just requires a little more information based on the site itself. And then from there, we go into construction and documentation, which just means like even more refinement, more details. And basically it's the set that in our case, we would pass that on to our in-house engineers, and they would then start to develop that model that Steve had shown. And then from there, construction administration, basically, we're working with the factory to essentially ensure that what we had designed is coming to life. And then similarly, we also essentially coordinate with site contractors as well to sort of carry the design all the way through.
And so again, what Kim just mentioned, like any architect, that those are the phases they follow.
So
Mike,
my
did I cover everything?
Yeah, no, you guys are covering a lot. And I guess some of the questions I might ask are, remedial or whatnot. I'm just trying to get a grasp on everything. So I guess my question is this all obviously readily available then on your website for me then to go in and say, I want, X number, I want this design, this and this, just to get an understanding. And again, it's my next phase is I'm then presenting to my family to see what they still want to do as we're kind of taking our time. I'm just trying to also then get the best understanding of where my design cost. From there, we also obviously would need to then even clean our land. It's cleared. It's just not fully cleared.
Yeah, let me show you some specific sections that you might want to look at. First of all, so we're at our homepage, plantprefab.com. See this red band? This is specifically for rebuild projects and the process. So here you can see easy link to our plant design studio. You can read about the work we do and how we work. You can see some of our projects. We have a free feasibility study we do for you. Click here. You can give us information about your project. That's how that process works. And then here's how we work. And it talks about land and feasibility and design and engineering, the different phases and the time frame. So I think that might be helpful. You can see the standard homes we do here under living homes right up here. You can see examples of that. Click on any one of them, and then you can go into great detail, see different renderings. You can see floor plans, things like that, different options. And then a portfolio of the work we've done. Here's quickly, portfolio. So affordable housing, multi-family work, multi-unit developments, hospitality and student housing, and then single family. Yeah, Mike, you should be able to get a lot of information there. We're happy to answer any questions you have if you don't have what you need there. And as I said, you're welcome to come out and visit us. We have weekly tours and see what we do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Adrian?
Yeah, Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve. I had two questions, basically follow-ups to the last one. I guess, my thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is once we go through the design process, let's say I'm using an external architect, we go through the design process, we get it quoted, and now we're $100 over a square foot than where we had hoped to be or that our budget allows. What's the process like then? I guess this is kind of my fear of like kind of going too down. I know that we have to go fully down the rabbit hole to kind of get there so that you guys can quote. But basically, I guess I guess my question is like, is it just a matter of like redoing stuff with the architect, starting to strip stuff out, make it smaller, redo things? Is there some sort of like value engineering or something, like where do I go from there? I'll start with that question.
So yes, Adrian, that is the process. But here's the good news. Whether you're working with us or another architect, and by the way, I should clarify, if you are working with a third party architect, we have a small contract that we do with you to essentially work with your architect during the process. And we're doing two things initially, and then a third thing later. But initially, we're consulting with them on the design. We're trying to optimize it for the kind of fabrication we do. Again, it could be all mods, could be all panels, could be a combination. We're working with them to both meet the design intent that they're working with you on, as well as to integrate a greater production efficiency, better pricing for you. And so that's an iterative process. So that's one thing we're doing. But the other thing we're doing is develop multiple iterations of your pricing. So at a schematic level, it's filled with assumptions. Can't be anything but.
Yeah.
But as you are moving through the process, now you're in DD, now you've got a spec done, engineering gets done. We're giving you iterations of pricing.
Okay.
So you're going to have a much earlier sense about whether you need to make changes because you're not hitting numbers you want to reach.
Okay.
So that's the last thing we do, by the way, is once you're actually good with the budget, we're getting locked and loaded on production. The architect, whether us or someone else, is called the construction documents, which are the set of complete plans your GC will use for their work, and frankly, we'll use for our work. We're working on an engineering on that manufacturing model. We take the construction documents and we turn that into the manufacturing model. That happens in parallel to that work, but that we don't do until you're locked and loaded on this project.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That clarifies. That's also good, just kind of somewhat reassuring to hear. The second question I was going to say was with regards to the living home section on the site. What's the, I guess, how can you speak about like cost benefit there? Like, what does that cost to go with one of those? Like, what are the savings? Is it just basically like design fees? Is it a flat fee? How does it work?
Yeah, no, it's still based on percent because again, we haven't done a standard home in a long time.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like years. They're all customized. So and also sites vary and the requirements there. But to the degree you're doing a semi-custom version, we're starting with one of those designs. We're not making we're using that as a base, then that does diminish your design fee with us. As I mentioned, the range is 7%.
So that's the 7 to, okay, gotcha.
7 to 12. And in terms of cost per square foot, assume no difference from a design you might do with a third party. In other words, like we don't price those any different than we would any design from anyone. So there's definitely no advantage of working with us from just a per square foot cost. It's the same materials that any other architect might need. Really, the advantage is going to be on the design fee side.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Stacy asked a question. Did you hear correctly? Restate issue permits. You sure did, by bypassing LA County. So, the homes we do legally, prefab home, it's considered the same as a site built home. So, oh, excuse me for a second. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Can't be discriminated against for zoning. No disclosure requirements on title. You don't have to tell people this was a prefab home. It's a regular home. No bank or insurance company can discriminate. And let me be clear, there are definitely some myths going around out there that like, oh, insurance companies won't do it. That's not true. They can't. However, some people confuse a modular home or panelized home from a mobile home. And mobile homes are different. They can't be permanently attached to a foundation. They can only be built in a mobile home or delivered to a mobile home park. And banks don't have to finance them. And I'm not sure about insurance, but that's not what we do. So I want to be clear on that. Okay. Because it's the same as a site-built home, we go through the same planning approval process. Whatever zoning applies, if you have a specialty agency like coastal or WUI, which of course for rebuild you won't have to deal with, fortunately, but we have to go through the same process. However, For the building permit, it's a bifurcated process. The local municipality, LA County for Altadena, Los Angeles for the Palisades, will review the plans that your architect has for the site work. They'll approve them as they normally do, and they will inspect as they normally do on site. The state will review the plans for the offsite work. They will approve them, not the local municipality, and they will inspect at the site, at our factory. And yes, Stacy, you didn't ask this, but it's a way more efficient process. And why? Because the state actually outsources it to one of 13 private companies who have to compete for the work. We work with one of the biggest, it's a company called Radco, and we typically get our permit approvals within 2 to 3 weeks after submission. So, and they inspected the site, we deliver certificates signed by the inspectors. And again, LA County will have no authority to inspect any of our work. The walls are closed and sealed. It is an advantage, frankly, of doing prefab. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining. Stacy, Adrian, Mike, please let us know if you have any other questions. Thank you to Kim and Matt and Seth for helping me out here. And we hope to be able to work with you. We hope to be able to see you at the factory if you haven't. And I put my email in the chat. Please, again, don't feel free to reach out if you have any questions in the future, and wishing you all the best, whether you're working with us or not. Thank you
so much, Steve and team. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Thank you.